Hi, everyone. Thank you for those who are joining us a little early. We'll just give it a few more minutes to let folks log in before we get started, but feel free to let us know if you have any questions or anything before we get started. Well, hello again, everybody. It is 5 p.m. and I see many of us have joined. I'll give it just another minute before we get started. I will go live on YouTube right now. Okay, I think we are live on YouTube and we are a little after 5, so I'll go ahead and get us started. I just want to welcome everybody to our 37th Arvin Lamont CSC meeting. My name is Liz and I'm one of the facilitators for, heard a little lag there. Yeah, well, again, I'm Liz, one of the facilitators from Harder and Company, and I'm joined here by my co-facilitator, Amy. Before we go into our welcome and introductions, we'll take a few minutes to set up our interpretation and go through our logistics and housekeeping slides. So I think I will pass it to Diana from Linguistica to walk us through the instructions.
Yes, thank you, Liz. Buenas tardes a todos. El día de hoy tenemos disponible el servicio de interpretación para aquellas personas que lo requieran. Si se están conectando desde una computadora, en la parte de abajo de su pantalla, en el menú de Zoom, van a ver un icono que parece un mundo que dice interpretación. Pueden seleccionar ese icono y luego seleccionar español y silenciar el audio original para que puedan escuchar la interpretación del inglés al español. Y si se están conectando desde una tableta o desde un dispositivo móvil, tienen que tocar su pantalla, van a aparecer 3 puntos. Seleccionamos también interpretación de idiomas, seleccionamos español, silenciar el audio original y para terminar, finalizado, terminado o listo. Ahora voy a dar las mismas instrucciones, pero en inglés. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be providing interpretation services for those who need it. If you're a monolingual English speakers and you wish to listen to the interpretation from Spanish into English, if you're joining from a computer, at the bottom of the Zoom menu, you will see a world-like icon that says interpretation. You can select it and then select English. And if you're joining from a tablet or your phone, you can tap your screen, select the 3 dots, language interpretation. You will select English, and then at the end, you can select finish or done. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Diana. And give me one moment to turn on the interpretation. Mhm. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so the interpretation should be on. Please do let us know right now or in the chat if you are not able to get into the interpretation channel. If there are no issues, we'll keep moving forward. So on here, you're seeing the renaming convention, which is important for our attendance tracking and stipend distribution process. We ask that if you are a member of the CSC, please indicate that in your Zoom name by putting a CSC. And if you are also a resident, we also ask that you put an R in your Zoom name. Here we have more reminders about the naming conventions. So if you are not a member of the CSE, we also ask that you write your organization name in your Zoom name so that we have an idea of who is here and also who is a member of the public. Here we have our virtual meeting etiquette. So we ask that everyone stays on mute unless you are speaking. And if you're joining by the phone, you can press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. If you have a question or any thoughts that you would like to share, we also ask that you raise your Zoom hand. And if you are on the phone, you can do that by pressing *9. We also have a reminder here for our residents in the stipend program. We ask that you stay on for 75% of the meeting to be eligible. So that is 90 minutes of our 2 hours together. And here we have a review of our group agreements that we take the time to read through at the top of every meeting. So everyone here has agreed to help achieve the meeting goals by focusing on solutions, opportunities, and productive dialogue. We really want to make sure that we're mindful of creating space for everyone here to participate. So if you're a little on the quiet side, we really do encourage you to take a chance and let us know your thoughts. We also ask for everyone to be kind and respectful, knowing that it's okay to disagree as long as we do it with respect and empathy. In these meetings, we also agreed to stay on point and on time. So we again ask folks to keep your comments brief to give everyone a chance to participate. And as we've said before, if we are going a little over time, we will bring the question back to the CSC and ask how you would like to move forward with the agenda. And since we only have these 2 hours together every month, if you do have a comment that is not related to the agenda item, we also ask that you hold those for our final public comment, and we'll also keep track of your comment and our notes and action items, and we'll be sure to address your comment at a later time. And next, we also agreed to attack the problem and not the person. And finally, we agreed to seek common ground. Building consensus and finding shared values will help achieve the best results. And here is our agenda for this evening. We will move into our welcome and introductions, and then have our usual action item tracker review. Then we'll spend most of our time hearing the community air monitoring update. And then we have another presentation on how to file a complaint. And then we have our usual standing updates, and then we will wrap up the meeting. So I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay, so happy to transition us again to our welcome. I would love to invite our co-leads and the Air District representative to share some opening remarks. I see Bianca here, and I'm not sure, Cesar, if you're here, but Bianca would love to invite both of you to share some opening remarks.
Hi, welcome everybody. I wanted to welcome all the CSC, all the residents. I know that this meeting is a little bit of the monitoring, but also how to report incidents. I know that in the past, community members have been addressing this specific topic, and the Air District is finally giving us a presentation on how to report incidents. And it's nice to have not just only local enforcers, sorry, my kids in the background, the local enforcers, but also the statewide enforcers here. So I appreciate that everybody's here in the table and seeing everybody's faces. I like to look at the roster, and I've been seeing that everybody's all here together. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate that the Air District is bringing that to the attention to the community members.
Hello, everyone. Cesar here. I'm providing backup to one of my colleagues in another community meeting out in Buttonwillow, but I'm joining by phone. And I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to show the reporting, and we've also chatted with a few folks that want to share a few hotspots or problematic areas. So I'm hoping that we can make some time to share that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca and Cesar. This is Jessica Olson. I am the Director of Community Strategies and Resources with the Valley Air District. I want to echo the welcome you've heard from the co-leads. I won't waste any more time, and I just want to thank you all for being here and let you all know that we're always available and interested in hearing what you want to talk about at these meetings. And so I just want to also echo the thanks, not only for this meeting today, but for those of you that helped us design this agenda at our agenda setting meeting a few weeks ago. Thanks, and I'll pass it back to you, Liz.
Yeah, thank you all for setting the context, and also don't want to take up too much time, so I'll transition us to our next agenda item. So as we do at every meeting, we review the action item tracker, and this is to help facilitate transparency and accountability between the Air District and the community. So this keeps track of the community's requests, making sure that they are documented and that the community stays informed of the progress being made towards your suggestions. And as Eric goes through the action item tracker, we'll have some time to see if you have any questions about any of the updates. And at the end of the meeting, we'll also take some time to review the action items from tonight as well. And with that, I'll pass it to Eric.
Alrighty, thank you, Liz. This is Eric from the Valley Air District with the Community Strategies and Resources team. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty. As always, I'll do a really brief walkthrough of how this looks on our website. So we have 4 main tabs right here. I'll go ahead and start with our in progress section. Go ahead and click on that. And I'll actually zoom in a little bit. There we go. Alrighty. Our first 2 action items from our last meeting both have to deal with the vehicle replacement incentive. Folks asked for a comprehensive update 6 months after the program opens. So we're more than happy to do that. And as a part of the community outreach for the passenger vehicle replacement program, folks asked that Valley Can and the district connect with local CBOs and organizations to conduct outreach. Alrighty, going to our next item. So I know folks asked us to share the draft RFP so we could schedule that vegetative barrier subcommittee meeting soon. So we are working to finalize that, and we'll get back with the CSC for more information on that. Okay. I'll go ahead and return to the beginning. I'll hop over to our ongoing section where we have our next items. Alrighty. As a part of the standing updates, Current Energy will report on number of violations, capacity limits on flares and boilers. So Current Energy will continue to bring CSC requested information to the standing update section of the regular CSC meetings. And I know Current Energy is joining us, so thank you so much for being here with us. Alrighty, go ahead and go back to the top. So our last item lives in the comment noted section. So we had a great comment during our last meeting. The CSC is encouraged to visit the EV Equity website for assistance and education regarding the electric vehicle incentive program. So there's great information on this website for more information on electric vehicles and just processes for those cars. Alrighty, I'll go ahead and leave it open for any questions or remarks.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.
Any questions or thoughts coming up for folks before we move on? Yeah, I see a hand from Jesus.
Thank you. I wanted to ask if it would be possible to get a subcommittee around the vehicle replacement program. Listening to or if I understand correctly, we're trying to get the meetings moving a little bit more, and I think a subcommittee where we can focus around questions around the vehicle replacement program, so that we can understand the process, and even develop amendments that we can propose to the larger steering committee, probably at the update or before the update. Yes, I wanted to see if that was possible and how soon we would be able to do that.
Thanks, Jesus. This is Jessica. What I understand, what I'm thinking, you're bringing up a really good point. I think one of the things we've done in almost every, if not every CSC so far, is had an outreach subcommittee that really digs in once we're like launching a new program that requires a lot of community input and outreach, and looking at those action items that Eric just read off. It sounds like this is one of them. I wonder if that's the place to start with, right? Because our goal that we left with collectively at the last meeting was to launch the program, do a lot of great outreach and get folks really interested and involved, and then assess down the line. I wonder if we start there, and then during that assessment phase, again, if we start to feel like there does need to be some work done, I think that your idea is a great one, that we start to work in a smaller group on it. But I wonder if the place to start, since we don't want to start making amendments to a program and not having even yet given it a chance to launch, I wonder if once we launch it, which again, we're hoping very, very shortly here, we're finalizing some stuff with CARB, we work together in a smaller group that works on like outreach and things that they're hearing in the community. And then at that assessment point, implement your concept, which I think is great.
Well, thank you. Well, the two things that come to mind with that is, looking at the limited time we have around it. If, at the 6-month, report back, we don't see the numbers we want to see. then it's going to take more time to then develop and to catch people along and then bring those amendments forward. I think if we can have a subcommittee that can bring those amendments together, or those potential amendments together, have to report back, see the results, and see the alternatives available, the committee would be able to decide whether they want to keep moving forward with the program as is, or consider the alternatives developed by the subcommittee that, you know, took a deeper dive into the program. And this is to bring in the you know, the community, the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
You
know. Thank you. This is Jessica again. I wonder if later down the line, it's hard, I imagine, to imagine amendments to a program if we don't know what the sticking points are. And once again, we haven't even launched the program. So I hear you, and what you're saying is that you don't want to wait until the 6 months to start thinking about it. I do think right now is a little bit early, and I do want us to focus some of our efforts on launching and doing the outreach. And I think that's where all of you could be. But I want you to know that that is our commitment. And it sounds like a subcommittee to deep dive into, maybe at those outreach meetings, that's some of the discussion that happens. But I don't want to confuse folks in that we're going down a path of amendment, when I felt like we all left the meeting last month with a path forward on launching, assessing, and then moving forward. But I do hear you, and I want, if Harder and Company can note that commitment as well, that we'll have a subcommittee that talks about launching the program, talks about outreach, and then maybe during those meetings has those discussions that Jesus is talking about, and ahead of the 6 months, if necessary, create that subcommittee so that we can talk about next steps. I think the collective vision I heard from everyone last time was really about outreach and launching this program and getting folks excited about it. So I really would like everyone to, I think, focus their energy there, but I don't want to lose that thread. And so it sounds like Harder's going to take that note for us.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of it, well, you know, a big part of the bringing it in earlier is also, you know, there's still a lot of confusion about how the program works, I imagine, since it's fairly new to a lot of people. And so, you know, I think outreach is a great idea to talk about for the subcommittee, but then also being able to understand what the requirements are and how those could potentially be amended.
I think you're right that the requirements are going to be a big part of that outreach component. That goes hand in hand. It's not just about telling people, but also letting them know the details. So I think that's a good point.
And so I wanted to know if there was, you know, we've made subcommittees in the past. What's the, I guess, the process on that, in case there's interest from the rest of the CSC?
I wonder, just for the sake, because it sounds like there's a lot of interest in this, and this isn't an agenda topic today. I wonder, well, two things I'll just say is we're happy to make a subcommittee as we launch things. I do know that we made an effort as a collective community last meeting to launch and start the process of outreach. That was like the big push. So I wonder if that outreach subcommittee is where we start talking about this and have that space to talk particularly about this measure agendized in that subcommittee with a smaller group of folks, and go from there. And then maybe Jesus, if sounds like you'd be willing, maybe you could be the person that reports back to this larger group after that committee meeting, and then we can continue this discussion if it's necessary to create a different subcommittee.
Thank you. I think, yeah, we can definitely move it to the subcommittee. You know, since, you know, we're still developing the launch, starting the steering committee, or not, the subcommittee makes sense, as we're also looking at outreach. You know, kind of hitting the ground running kind of mentality there. So then, yeah, how soon could we get the subcommittee?
We will work on that. It sounds like, I think we have a few subcommittees we're interested in launching. Tree subcommittee, our vegetative barriers subcommittee that Eric just mentioned, and a few others as needed. We still have an ongoing pesticide subcommittee. So we'll take a look. And Jesus, if you're our volunteer, maybe you can help us. We can work with you to help schedule some time and get something out to the CSC within the next month or so at the latest.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just, you know, I continue talking about the program. People are excited. people have vehicles, but they're, 2006, 2010, and or 2007, 2010. So there's interest, but then, they also want more vehicles being eligible.
Thank
And
you.
so that's one of the items I want to hit on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we definitely took note of all of that. I see we have a couple more hands up, and just because of time, I'll just ask you to just keep it brief. But we definitely want to hear the comments. So I see, is that Mario? Please go ahead.
Yes, what I want to know is how you guys gonna give this information to the public? I mean, especially for our community, Spanish language, and how you guys gonna do it? That's what I want to know. To give this
Great.
information to our people.
Yes, we talked a lot about it at last meeting, and it sounds like a subcommittee to really dig in is what we need. We talked a lot about flyering, about working with CBOs. We even have mini grants to give to organizations so they can do the work and get paid for that work. To do that outreach in the, with folks are comfortable with, right? Those of you that already work and live in that community. So those are some of the ideas we have. But I think an outreach subcommittee, it sounds like, is really of interest, and this can be our main topic for now.
Yeah, okay. That was what I want. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mario. And also noting the possible outreach subcommittee too. Great suggestion. And Sandra, see your hand is up too.
Yeah, I just wanted to be really brief too. I just kind of wanted to echo what Jesus was saying earlier. I do think that there should be a subcommittee, but I did also want to just voice and reiterate that as a community organizer, I've heard a lot from the community that, the year of eligibility for the car is too low, right? For the car replacement program. So folks have been voicing to me that they think that the year should be 2010 to 2014 or lower, right? So just wanted to get that out there that folks have been voicing this to me. So it's definitely a concern.
Thank you, Sandra. And it sounds like, I know we've talked about it on a high level, but I do think just as we launch, one of the biggest things we'll look to assess program is that model year. So that's a really good reminder. And thanks to you and Jesus for all of that work. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah, thank you all for the great questions. And if anything else comes up, please do feel free to put it in the chat and we'll be sure to take note of it too. So I will transition us to our next agenda item. So as many of you know, the Community Air Monitoring Plan, also known as the CAMP, is an important piece of this work. Because in order for us to make informed decisions on solutions to reduce air pollution, we need to have good data that tells us the kinds of pollutants that are being emitted and the specific areas that are being impacted by those emissions. And this is the first of this kind of update for the Community Air Monitoring Plan for the Arvin Lamont CSC. And this presentation, as was mentioned earlier, was developed with a lot of community feedback to make sure that all of this complex data is presented in a way where we can all learn what this data means and how to interpret it. So this update is a learning opportunity. No big decisions will be made tonight. And we just really want to encourage everybody to ask questions if things are feeling unclear, or if you're wanting more information. So yeah, would love to see engagement from everybody tonight. And with that, I'm happy to pass it to the Air District.
Alejandra, right before we pass it to you, I just want to give a big shout out to Cesar and Bianca and Sandra, who helped review and develop the presentation. And I also wanted to let you all know that this went out in the packets in Spanish. I know oftentimes we try to present bilingual information on a slide, but because this is really technical and there are a lot of big graphics, We will be presenting in English, and then all of the Spanish materials are online and we sent out hard copies. I do see some folks with their cameras on and I can see it in front of them. So I appreciate all of your patience there. And I'll pass it to you, Alejandro.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alejandro. I'm an instrument specialist for the Air District. I'm actually the person responsible for doing the upkeep and maintenance for all the air monitors down at Arvin and Lamont. So yeah, this is just I think Eric is going to help me out with the slides. So, okay, perfect.
Sorry,
Thank you,
before
Eric.
we get started, Liz, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I see, Francisco, your hand is up. I'm not sure if you have a comment or question that you would like to share or if that was an accident, but just want to make some space.
Yo tengo una
I
pregunta.
have a question. I wanted to ask you because the lawnmowers, it's been almost a year that they're saying that they're gonna give us those lawnmowers and we haven't done anything. So I wanted to know what's happening with that, with the lawnmowers, because I wanted to go and buy one and to give the other one back, but I don't have an idea where to go or anything. And we were talking about that with Cesar, and Cesar is saying that the best thing is to do the program and bring them here to the community so they can give it to us and we can give the one that we have. And that's what I wanted to know.
Liz, I can answer that. This is Jessica again with the Air District. Great question. We actually have that update during the standing updates from the district, but of course it takes 1 second. I'll just take a moment to answer it here. If the other hands that are raised are about that, I'm happy to go in more detail when we get to the standing updates. I'll just let you know today we just released what's called a request for applications. Essentially, we're trying to contract to get a lot of lawnmowers to an event to Arvin specifically. And so because of that, we had to go through a different process than we've gone through in the past. But yes, we are working very, very hard. I also think this could be a great topic for the outreach subcommittee, but we had to go through a couple of steps and just today launched that. So we expect that our outreach subcommittee can be a perfect place to plan an event that can happen this spring. So we're really excited about that. And as a reminder for you all, if you're unfamiliar, this would be for a free lawnmower to residents in exchange for a gas lawnmower. So any other additional questions about it, I'm happy to take during the district updates.
Thank you. And
Gracias.
Okay, muchas gracias.
Thank you. And I see a hand up from Mario. Oh, I think, oh, Mario, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay. Now, could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I want to know how much lawnmowers are you guys gonna give out to each and every community?
Great question. I think we will be sure to answer that in the update later. So we'll go into more specifics about the
But
lawnmower.
okay, my question is, for the reason why I'm asking this, because I heard it'd be like 100 lawnmowers for communities. To me, it's very low. It would not do no effect for what we are trying to do for 617 to help out to our environment. And not only that, not a lot of people will get a lawnmower to understand what's going on with 617, to get information about these programs and all that. I feel, and two, not only that, for our environment, ain't gonna help out nothing. It's like 100 lawnmowers, like, like one.
Yeah, Mario, we hear you, and we definitely want to talk about this, and we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it in the meeting a little bit later.
Okay, bye.
So we're making note of your questions, and we'll be sure to get back to you when we get back to the lawnmower topic. But yeah, thank you so much, and definitely hear a lot of interest in the lawnmower program. So want to make sure you get those questions answered. Yeah, thank you everyone for taking that little pause, and I think we can transition it back to Alejandro to take us through the air monitoring update.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that I am the person responsible for doing the upkeep and maintenance for all the air monitors at the Arvin Lamont community. And I'm also going to be giving you this update for the community's air monitoring. So without further ado, let's get started. Next slide, please. Awesome. Thank you. So this is just a brief scope of what we're going to be reviewing. We're going to be going over the status of the community's air monitoring plan implementation. We're also going to be going through an analysis of the air monitoring data we've collected. And of course, we will take questions and comments throughout the presentation. Okay, so starting off, here is the status of the community's air monitoring plan. This is a plan that the community has helped put together through consistent feedback with us. As you can see on the table here and map, we have 7 designated locations, and also noted on the far right-hand side under the done column is the deployment status for the locations. So the majority of them are up and running with the exception of 2, Alicante Elementary and DeGiorgio and Comanche. So those 2 are in progress. I'll talk a little bit later more on where we're at with those pending locations. Also, under monitoring are the pollutants we are measuring for at those listed sites. As you can see, all the sites have or will have PM 2.5, and some sites will have multi-pollutant monitors. Next slide, please. So here are the air monitors that we actually use. So on the left-hand side is a PM 2.5 monitor that's located in almost every site. The center picture shows a multi-pollutant monitor currently at Mountain View Middle School. And on the right-hand side is a trailer with different monitors that can detect and record a comprehensive array of pollutants. You could actually find this trailer at the Arvin Community Services District. Next slide. So here we have the air monitoring van. So this van is fully equipped to monitor a variety of pollutants, and it also gives us the ability to quickly and easily deploy wherever the community has any concerns regarding air pollutants. All right. Next slide, please. So currently, we are continuing to conduct localized air monitoring within the Arvin Lamont community. As mentioned earlier, we are in the process of looking for an acceptable location to deploy a PM 2.5 monitor at the DeGiorgio and Comanche area. So if the community has any suggestions for any locations, please let us know. We're also working with the Lamont School District to deploy a multi-pollutant air monitor at Alicante Elementary. So we're actually wrapping up the contract, and we're just awaiting the electrical infrastructure to be installed. So in addition, we also have the air monitoring van, again, as mentioned before, available to monitor in areas of interest. So please let us know if there are any areas you'd like for us to monitor, and we'll get that out there. Let's see. Okay, also we're conducting lab analysis of air samples for PM 2.5 and VOC speciation at the Arvin CSD site. So we're actually taking samples of air at that site, And what we do is we send these out for analysis to identify what specific pollutants the samples are comprised of. This will help us identify potential sources of the pollution. So this is what we are currently doing and have implemented. Any questions so far?
I do
Yes.
see a hand up from Elvia and Mario.
I want to know when are you available to use those mobile monitors?
You know what?
I can
oh.
jump in, Alejandro.
Okay.
So the question, Mario, you're asking like when, like during what times of day and week are we available to mobile monitor? Is that the question?
Yes.
Certainly. So, and maybe Chai can jump in a little bit on like what we've done
Yeah.
historically in terms of like sometimes we go out just and monitor for a little bit. Sometimes we can go out and park the van for a time. So I'll have Chai explain
Yeah,
that. Thank you.
yeah, but the point what I'm trying to get at, when are you guys available?
Right, and I'll have Chai explain. We're always available, or we can park. The van can be sort of a semi-permanent. So I'll have Chai explain kind of how we use the monitoring van.
And
Yeah, as far as availability, we're pretty much available around the clock. And what we've been doing, initially we started just monitoring, 3 or 4 hours because it takes a while to get there to set it up. We monitor for 3 or 4 hours or 4 or 5 hours, and then we leave, and that's pretty much the entire day. That was the initial part of it, but as the more that we did that, we realized that we weren't really getting very useful information just monitoring for a few hours. And in addition to that, like many of you may probably have already heard, we had some incidences, safety incidences occur. So moving forward, what we're planning to do with this and what we have been doing with these vans is identifying a location that the community wants to monitor, and that needs to be a safe location where we can park the van for a few days that has access to power, so we can put it over there and run it for a week or two. And that way we're really able to capture any type of air pollution concerns in that area versus just 3 or 4 hours. So as far as availability, we're pretty flexible. It's just a matter of the community identifying, hey, this is we're concerned about, we're seeing odors, we're smelling odors at this location, or we're seeing pollution at this location, we're concerned. We just need to identify that location, and then we can deploy the van out there.
I was going to tell you guys do not have a generator, a mobile generator to power your vans?
So actually, it can be the van itself, the engine itself can power the unit. So let me back up a little bit. So the van itself has a built-in battery pack, a special built-in battery pack that powers all the air monitoring equipment and the AC unit in there. But after a while, it'll only last a few hours, especially during the summertime. And then after that, the engine kicks in and then provides power through there too. But at the same time, we don't really want to be.
The AC/DC, yeah, I know about that system. Two, I was going to tell you, it's because I'm trying to figure out how to get a mobile monitor on a couple of locations where I'm concerned. The only problem is that I'm hearing too many excuses on the part of your guys' part, because if it's not one thing, it's another. And I need to make sure that when you put a monitor, like, do the job, because there's a lot of monitors, they shut down, and then you don't get the information, and then you don't got the information, and we're trying to fix up something that it's not working.
Are you referring to? Are there any specific monitors that you're referring to that's not operating?
Well, there's a lot of monitors, like here, where the oil plant is. Every time when they have a flare up, that part right there, that machine is always broken that day. We don't get the proper information when something happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one, if you're referring to our community monitor or the fence line monitor. We haven't really noticed it being down in that particular manner. I mean, there are some times when the units are down, but it's not as that level of frequency. So if she can contact me directly and we can go through some of the details.
Yeah, and two, yeah, it's because the thing is that I need to make sure that that monitor is certain location where there's no trucks, cars, none of those type of deals next to that monitor, because that's the only way we're gonna find out what kind of pollution. We have to identify it and make sure what it is, where it's coming from. Because every time that you guys get some information is about cars, trucks, and polluting from those type of sorts. It's never what could be other type of gases or anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds great. I mean, if you have any specific locations, definitely please share it with us, and we can look into it a little bit further and see what we can do to either take the van over there, monitor there with those. And again, we also have the ability to collect the air samples and then send those off so that we get a better understanding of what the
and you guys have to have permission of the owner of the property?
Well, if we're going to be on their property, then we definitely will need their permission. Otherwise, if it's just on the side of the street, then
See, that's the
we
point.
can monitor. Yeah, we can monitor there for a little bit, but like I said earlier, ideally, if we can identify a place that we can go in that's safe, and we can leave the van there for a couple days, that will really help us identify what the potential sources are.
Yeah, because
Can
you put a monitor at a street, the only thing we're gonna get cars and stuff like that. And I don't want to put a monitor where I want to find out about a certain type of gas coming out of a certain area.
Thank you, Mario. And it sounds like the questions are general questions, and we will try to get to some of that general informational piece at the end of the presenter's time and make sure that we get through these slides. I do see that we have several more content to get through. Maria Dolores, do you have a question that requires it to be answered right this second, or can we wait until the end of the presentation?
Es una pregunta muy breve. Buenas tardes. Yo quería preguntar qué
It's
es
a
lo
brief question. I just wanted to ask what happened with the monitor that they were going to place in Animal Lane for the refinery, because many times the community of Fuller Acres, we have complained of the odor there, but I don't know what happened if you place the monitor at a refinery, or what were the results on that. I don't know what happened.
The Panama Lane, are you referring to? I mean, we do have, as far as the monitor for the refinery, current energy, we have a community monitor, and that's located at Mountain View Middle School.
I wonder if, this is Jessica from the Air District, as Alejandro goes through the presentation, which actually has the monitoring data, Alejandro, if every once in a while you can remind us where, because the monitors have sort of like names to them, we can maybe keep pointing out Mountain View, which is the one that Chai just mentioned that's next to the refinery. And if you all during the presentation have a question about which monitor is which, Alejandro's happy to explain again, oh, this is the one near Weed Patch, or this is the one in Arvin, and that might be helpful too.
So the monitor near Panama Lane, would you be referring to the one on in Mountain View Middle School, or because I'm not familiar which monitor, or are you asking if we're going to put a monitor out there?
Your question is for Maria Dolores, Alejandro?
Yes, sorry.
Maria Dolores, this is Amy. Can you clarify the location of the monitor that you are talking about so that we can clarify that during the presentation? Thank you. I think we may have lost Maria. Sandra?
I can jump in. I think what Maria's referring to is a monitor that I believe was initially asked to be placed around the refinery to measure the emissions from the refinery. But I also believe that there is a fence line monitoring on the refinery. And I think that's kind of causing a little bit of confusion. So maybe like if towards the end we can clarify like what a fence line monitor is versus like what these specific monitors are. So maybe we can all be on the same page.
Okay, that sounds good. So, should we move forward or, sorry?
Yeah, that's
Or do we
helpful.
have-
And I see, thank you, Alejandro. This is Amy. I see Maria has raised her hand now. Maria, anything else to add before we move forward?
Sí, era a ese al que yo me
Yes.
refería.
It was that one. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that
Thank you so
that's
much.
the one I was referring to.
Thank you. Alejandro, if we could move forward, and I also see Lucia commented on the chat that it would be the on Weed Patch Highway and Panama Lane. So maybe we can provide some clarification when you're giving the presentation. And Jesus will take your question right after we go through some of these slides. Really want to prioritize making sure that the community does hear an update on the community monitoring, because this is a major piece of the important work that you're doing here in the community.
Okay, so Eric, if you can go up to the camp implementation status page, I think it's slide slide 3. So the multi-pollutant monitor that I think is being referenced is the one in Mountain View Middle School, correct? Number 1 on the map.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Alejandro, I wonder if let's just get to the presentation. And then I think what Dr. Ramos is saying is that at the end, we can kind of talk about next steps. And to Sandra's point, also clarify the difference between this monitor and any of the other additional monitoring that's happening. So Jesus,
Okay.
Is that something that works for you as well as we go through some of this? I see your hand is up too. Thank you. Go ahead, Alejandro.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about the multi-air pollutant located at Mountain View, and then the fence line monitor as well. Okay, so moving forward. So I'd like to go through some data. So this is a summary of our findings, and I'll expand a little further on these points later in the presentation. So for 2023, PM 2.5 levels at all locations that were fully implemented for the entire year were below the annual PM 2.5 standard. And in the 2023 fourth quarter, as you will see shortly, PM 2.5 levels rose throughout the valley, as they typically do. Also, specifically for the fourth quarter of 2023, PM 2.5 levels were lower than 2022's fourth quarter. And this is due to less wildfire impacts, less stagnant air, and continued valley-wide emission reduction efforts. And lastly, the air monitoring data is available online at your community portal. Next slide, please. Ooh, lights are going off. Okay. So actually, before we look at the data, I'd like to kind of explain about the pollutants throughout the year. So in the summertime, ozone is the primary pollutant. It's formed when heat from sunlight mixes with nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds, VOCs. These gases are created by cars, trucks, trains, and petroleum-based transportation, as well as factories. So in the summertime, ozone is the primary pollutant. Next slide, please. Now, during the winter time, PM 2.5 becomes the primary pollutant. So during the summer, ozone, wintertime, PM 2.5. And for those that might not know, PM 2.5 is essentially any particulate that is 2.5 microns or smaller in size. So here in the slide, we have a visual to kind of help understand how tiny these particles are. So beach sand here in the picture is approximately 90 microns. A strand of hair is approximately 50 to 70 microns thick. So PM 2.5 microns is going to be 20 times smaller than that of the thickness of a strand of hair. That's tiny. PM 2.5 can be emitted directly, for example, like smoke from fireplaces, and it can also be formed in the atmosphere when certain compounds are present, like nitrogen oxides from motor vehicles. Also, in the wintertime, we experience higher levels of 2.5 due to what's called an inversion layer or lid that sits over the valley. And I'll explain what that is on the next slide. So what an inversion layer is. So as seen on the visual here, on the right-hand side, the inversion layer is, I'm going to try to explain what it is. There's also a short video that you'll see shortly. So an inversion layer is basically a warm layer of air that acts as a lid, and it literally traps smoke and other pollutants near the surface. So since the cooler air near the surface, it can't rise through the warm layer above it, the colder air carrying pollutants sort of bounce off and the air remains stagnant, leading to poor air quality. And here's a short video showing what it is. And I do want to mention that this is just an example video we got from YouTube. So as you can see, it's just kind of like hitting a lid and then just staying stagnant and not dispersing out to the atmosphere. And that's why we generally see higher PM 2.5 values, values during the winter time. Anyone have any questions regarding that? All right. Moving forward. So we're actually going to jump into the data side of things. So this is the 2023 annual PM 2.5 average for the Arvin and Lamont locations that were deployed for the entirety of the 2023 year. So on the left-hand side of the graph is the PM 2.5 concentration levels, and also the bars, obviously. Each bar represents a different location within the community. And a little bit on top is the dashed line, and that represents the 12 microgram PM 2.5 annual standard. And as you can see, the annual PM 2.5 average at all these locations were below the 12 microgram annual standard, which is great. All right, next slide, please. So now zooming in on the time scale, here's a graph that breaks the year into a monthly basis. Again, on the left-hand side is the PM 2.5 concentration. And for the graphs, each color represents a different location, and each bar represents 1 month. I'd like to point out for Arvin CSD, we only have August through December, since it was deployed later in the 2023 year. So yeah, we don't have data for the entire year for that one, but for the others we do. As you can see, all locations have a similar trend in the summer months. We usually see lower PM 2.5 levels. However, during this year, the levels were higher due to summer wildfires. And as for levels in December, you see kind of a peak almost for each site that's a result of the winter stagnant conditions caused by the inversion layer mentioned previously, and it's typical for the winter months. All right, next slide, please. So now, oh, I think we have a hand raised.
We can wait till the end.
Okay.
Thank you, Alejandro.
All right, so let's zoom in even further. On the left is a bar showing average hourly air quality for 24 hours, so one full day. This specific day is it's an example from November 15th, 2023 at Sunset Middle School. So this was an actual recorded day. The colors within this bar correspond to the different air quality levels shown on the right-hand side of the slide. So ranging from level 1, which is good air quality, to level 5 being poor air quality. Each color represents a different range of PM 2.5 concentration. So for the majority of the day, we did have good air quality with a few hours of poor air quality. So in this case, we actually had a large wind event that caused significant wind-blown dust. And yeah, this is just an example of how air quality can vary throughout the day. Next slide, please. So this one might look a little scary, but it's essentially what you saw in the previous slide. So yeah, what you saw in the previous slide was for one day, specifically November 15th of last year at Sunset Middle School. So that single day is shown as one of the bars in this chart. So just picture that day being here, and the rest is just more days. So this chart shows the varying air quality for each day for all the locations. On the right-hand side is the location the bars correspond to. And on the bottom are the dates. This shows the entirety of the fourth quarter from October 1st to December 31st of 2023. So that should kind of help give some perspective as to what we're looking at. And as you can see, for the majority of the quarter, we were in the green or good air quality days. Also, in the highlighted red boxes, we see worsening air quality. So this was towards the end of the fourth quarter in December. So we're kind of getting into the cold weather of the month. We started experiencing days of stagnant air, again, caused by those inversion layers that we had talked about earlier. Next slide, please. So we looked at the 2023 data. Now, here is a comparison of PM 2.5 averages between the fourth quarters of 2022 and 2023. So on the left-hand side of the slide are the locations of the monitors. The top portion of the table consists of the community monitors, and the bottom half are two nearby regulatory monitors for comparison. So in the middle column are the 2022 fourth quarter PM 2.5 averages, and on the right-hand side are the 2023 fourth quarter PM 2.5 averages. And as you can see on the table, all of 2023 quarterly averages are lower than 2022. So this better air quality is due to less wildfire impacts, less stagnant air, and continued valley-wide emission reduction efforts. Additionally, the community air monitors are showing better air quality than the regulatory monitors in the surrounding areas, as you can see at the bottom. So this actually concludes the data analysis part of the presentation. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, thank you so much. I see we do have a couple questions actually. First one from Elvia or Mario.
All right.
I think if you're trying to speak, you're on mute right now, Mario.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, my question is, could you identify the type of material what creates these type of gas, smog and gases?
So we actually, in the Arvin CSD site, we do have what we call TO15 cans. And we also are adding, or we actually have added filters, PM 2.5 filters. And what we do is we send those out to a lab for them to analyze. And then they send us back the results. And from the results, we can see what's exactly in the gas and what exactly comprises the PM 2.5. And just knowing that, it can help us identify the sources. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
This is Jessica. Alejandro, that was a perfect explanation. Can you remind me, we just deployed that, so we don't yet have the data back. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the PM 2.5 speciation, we just deployed that, so we don't actually have any data on that. However, for the VOCs, we should have some data for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. We have another hand from Gustavo.
I didn't finish yet.
Oh,
because you didn't answer my question. Yeah, you didn't answer my question. They just turned off my mic. My question is, how I told you, could you identify the type of material what creates this type of gas and or smoke? What I'm trying to get at is like how you could identify this smoke belongs to this car, this type of gas belongs to this. I need to know what type of combination of other type of material creates this type of gas and or smoke.
This is Jessica. That's a great follow-up, Mario. So building off of what Alejandro just mentioned, we have to go to the lab to understand what type of material it is. So that's what he was just explaining, that we capture the air and we send it off. It is not a real-time situation, meaning we don't have like a computer that spits out levels like it does for the other types of measurements like ozone and PM 2.5. It actually takes a good amount of time to get that information back. So that is one piece where we kind of identify the type of PM or the type of gas that we're seeing in the area. But to your point, that is only one piece of it. There's also what you just said. Can you identify like it's this car or it's this piece of traffic? That's a little bit trickier. And that's something I'm happy to talk to. Maybe we have another meeting, at our next update, we bring even some of our colleagues from CARB to talk a little bit about. That's something that is called, I don't want to, not too technical of a term, but essentially you assign like a source specifically. Sometimes that gets tricky because there are a lot of sources that can, say, for example, have diesel particulate matter. And so if we're capturing diesel particulate matter, it could be a variety of different places. But that is something that we're always striving towards. And this lab data that Alejandro just explained is part of that piece. For example, we've done things in other communities where we've been able to identify that what's causing PM is wood smoke because of some specific lab data we were able to capture. So we can identify things like that. We can't always identify this is the exact place that the wood smoke came from, but we'll always continue to work with you all and with CARB on trying to better identify that.
thank you so much. And just want to see, did that answer your question, Mario?
No, it didn't.
No.
But thank
Maybe
you.
we can follow up. We'll follow up with you offline to make sure that your question is answered.
All right.
Thank you. So we can go to Gustavo.
Good evening. few questions. One is, few months ago, we, had the, news that Bakersfield area has again the worst air quality in the nation. For me, as a regular citizen, how can that relate to what you presented? How can you explain it to us? That one. The other one, I think it was mentioned that this 2023, the air quality has been better, and part of it is the wildfires and so on. And it was also mentioned that some measures taken to reduce the pollution. So I think if you can help me understand, how it relates, that we have the worst air in the nation, and what actions the air district is taking, to help reduce the pollution. And then the last question is, what are the next steps? You have these results, and I think the idea is, okay, we do the air monitoring and then implementing the pollution reduction projects, ideas, programs. What may be the next step? So is that clear? How?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Jessica, and Gustavo, as I answer, stop or help me if I don't get all of the questions. To answer Gustavo's question, and I'm sure all of you are from the Valley, many of you are born and raised in the Lamont, Arvin area. You know that this has been the case for a long time, and that there's a report that comes out every year that's based on the previous year's annual average or daily average PM 2.5 data. So that's where typically that part of the Valley ranks the worst. And so just to describe it in terms of like what we're seeing here and what we're talking about here, actually this slide is a perfect example, is we're talking about measurements at particular sites in the heart of Bakersfield designed to measure sort of the peak PM 2.5 happening in that part of the Valley. And that Bakersfield, California monitor that you see listed there, that's the monitor that drives a lot of, if not all of, the regulatory discussions around worst air quality, or what we call attaining a standard. And so that monitor that you see there, the higher levels there, compared to that same measurement at all of the other, air districts and all of the other states, is trends higher. Even though it's trending down, and even though it's been significantly improved, it is still the highest among, on a, not to get complicated, but on sort of a 3-year basis, it is the highest among all of similar sites across the area. What we have done with 617 is we want to know what's happening in Arvin, in Lamont, in these communities. And so this slide kind of shows, of course, it's just the quarter, but what I think Alejandro is trying to show here is that at the peak, when we tend to see the highest PM 2.5, you can see here, at least for these 5 monitors we've had, that the levels are lower than that peak Bakersfield site. Now, we're not saying that we're where we want to be. We want to continue to make sure these levels are lower and stay lower. But this is kind of that comparison that you were just mentioning, the overall average, what's assigned to Bakersfield compared to, okay, well, what's happening over here in Arvin, Lamont? And so that's what we're trying to show a little bit here. I will also mention that that particular discussion, if you actually can go, Eric, to slide 11, that discussion, Gustavo, tends to center around a couple of different averaging periods, meaning like a full day or a full year. And so this, what it compares to is that dotted line. And Alejandro talked about how that's a standard. That's a health-based line that the federal EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, puts out there and says, hey, anything above this line is unhealthy for people to breathe year round. You need to be below that line to be in a healthier state. Of course, there's no healthy level of pollution, but it is healthier for people to be below that line. In fact, the line is about to get even lower. It will be a 9 here for everyone. And so we'll continue to get below this line as best we can. What Alejandro is showing here is that the 12, which was sort of the line we've been trying to attain for a long time now, we are, at least at these 4 sites, the past year have been meeting that. To your point, as we see peaks, maybe it's a day, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's a month that you saw that monthly chart where the December was really high, we need to find what are those next steps. And so your question about what are we doing, we have our SERP strategies, which are one piece. But we on our end, Alejandro's team, will see those spikes in real time, and we can connect with our enforcement team. We can connect with all of you. We can get eyes on the ground and try to find out what's happening, especially when it reaches those really high levels. Alejandro mentioned that one day where we saw really, really high levels, those like purple colors, that was due to a wind event. So we want to make sure we're always on top of, okay, when there are something that's out of range or seems odd, how are we reacting and how are we responding? Now, if we're seeing that all the time, and we think it's an issue where like maybe we can help someone come into compliance, or we can help replace something with an incentive, that's the target that we want to meet. So that's kind of to your point. And then the rest of today's presentation, so I want to stop and make sure we get to it, is so important because I think a lot of this can also be helped with filing complaints when you see things that you think might be causing an air pollution issue. And so we'll make sure that folks know how to do that with our next presentation.
So I understand, the time constraint, but it was not clear to me what may be the next steps, after getting this information, and one of the reasons my understanding is that I think in the Shafter project, we are getting to the last year of that project and may not achieve all the projects, all the SERPs that were identified. And I think here in Arvin, Lamont, we are still in the early stages. And I think we need to learn from our neighbors on how to improve. So that's why I asked the question, what would be the next steps now that we have data, showing us what are district's suggestions to better reduce or improve the air quality, with the data that is already collected.
I see. Yeah. So I think
any ideas?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's sort of what I was trying to get at, but maybe I'll be clear. A couple things. One is I think that's what we call speciation, that understanding of what is in the PM 2.5 will help us a lot with identifying those sources, which gets to Mario's point. And that can help us pinpoint better some more strategies. I also think we need to now, this is our baseline. This was the first year that we had full annual data for a lot of our sites. And so now it's taking the next year's data and seeing, did we improve with any of the SERP measures that we implemented? Does this mean maybe we need to shift money with you all supporting and helping us with these suggestions to maybe money for measures that get more reductions because we're not seeing the reductions we hoped to get from all of the measures you all helped us develop. So I do think there's a reason why CARB made this a 5-year and longer for monitoring potentially program, because it takes a little bit more time than just 1 year's worth of data. Now that we have a baseline, it's the first time you ever have had this much monitoring in Arvin and in Lamont. Next year, as we continue, of course, day by day, we'll react and get on top of like spikes. But next year, if we don't see improvement, we want to understand why. We want to understand what else we can do. So it is sort of a longer ongoing process with the data. And that's at least my initial answer to you, Gustavo, but I definitely hear you. And I wonder if there's an interest in having that lesson learned from Shafter in a future meeting.
Yeah, I think, just my last comment, I think several members mentioned, the lawnmower project, which I think that's something that should be happening. I don't see other than maybe the district capacity to do it. do it sooner than later. You know, why wait for that? I think the district have the experience in implementing it in other projects. So that's one of the projects that can be, you know, moved and maybe accomplished by this year, early this year, mid-year. And then for next year, you know, data collecting, monitoring data collecting, we can say, you know, the lawnmowers help improve the air quality, because if we are not finalizing, implementing the SERPs, how can we say that the SERPs are helping if it's only on paper?
We couldn't agree more, Gustavo. It was more of as we launched and started getting more and more mowers, there was a need to make sure we had a contractor who can help us get those. So that's why we were a little delayed. And I'll have a better update later about timing. But yes, we couldn't agree more. We want to get things going, and we're excited that you all are all excited with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I see a couple hands up, and we'll take those before we move on to our next agenda item. So Bianca, go ahead.
I can let Gabby go first. I would like her comment go first before mine.
Gracias, Bianca. Thank you, Bianca. My comment is exactly what Mr. Gustavo just commented. I am paying attention in the report that you were giving right now about the air monitors, and that's good. But these monitors started a long time ago, and they continue and continue, but we are still not implementing all the things that need to make the change in the pollution. So I'm not agreeing so much with the point of monitoring the air continually without having the changes that we're supposed to be doing. So I think it's good. We did the monitoring at the beginning, so we will have to do it in the middle of the project, and then at the end of the projects that we have in the agenda, the ones that we have written down that we're supposed to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bianca, please go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to echo with my colleagues and community members that it's important for us to implement a lot of the projects. We don't want what happened in Shafter to happen here in the Arvin and Lamont area, where we're in the last year in Shafter and still not a lot of the community incentive being brought back. My question is for like the monitoring. I can't remember the name of the person right now. I'm sorry. Alejandro, sorry, Alejandro.
Good.
I know that you mentioned that the monitor started mid-year last year. For the prior year of monitoring, is the Air District going to continue doing it even though it surpasses the 5 years? Is it going to be an exceeding monitor, or is it going to happen after the 5 years? And if so, what is the Air District going to do? How is the funding going to happen? I know that in the camp, there's some money allocated for camp. Can the Air District give us brief details on how much funding did they receive from CARB to do the monitoring? And has it been attained till this day? Because if we don't have clear numbers of how much monitoring we're going to be doing in the community, we're not going to be clear that it's going to be monitoring for just 5 years, it's going to be for a longer period. Those are my questions. If they're going to continue doing the monitoring after the 617 finishes in the area.
So those are great questions. I'm going to leave it to Jessica or try to answer those. They're way better first to answer those questions.
Thank you, Alejandro, and thanks, Bianca. That's a great point. I'll just to help simplify, but happy to talk offline or even bring back like better information, not just offhanded. I'll just let folks know that we have part of our camp, our air monitoring plan, is to continue to monitor after the SERP has been fully implemented so we can still see all of the benefits to the community. Without getting into it, just because it gets really complicated, for those that track, we get our funding from the state, and the state budget sometimes year to year can be tricky and not give us maybe all of the funding that we need to implement things. We are on track, and I have no doubt that we're committed to monitoring and seeing all of this through. But in terms of like those dollar amounts, Bianca, sometimes it's year after year allocations to the districts, and this is across the state, to the districts and to CARB. But in terms of the number of monitors, once we're fully deployed, to Alejandro's point, we plan, unless you all want to, make changes as we move forward in the next, several years, we plan to keep those monitors there after and continue to monitor for, a few years after the SERP is implemented. So we're definitely we just started launching that. It's going to be several years, more than 5 years, I'll just say, Bianca. That's something we can continue to work with you all on and assess that need and desire as we move forward.
Yeah, thank you for the questions. And I do see we have a few more hands up, and I'll just say one of our group agreements is to step back if you talk a lot and step in if you don't talk too much. So would love to hear from Evelyn, who has yet to share a comment. So please go ahead.
Hi, yes, I just had a question regarding our baseline. It looked to me in the data that our baseline is last year, that was a year that we had fires. So it seems like the data would be skewed if we're using that year to compare if our data is improving. Is that the goal, to use that as our baseline year? Are we planning to use this year as it seems more normalized? Does that seem to be more fair to use this year since it's a non-fire year, and kind of just, use this year? Are we trying to normalize the data? Do we know what we're going to do for that in terms of a baseline, so we can have a better idea?
This is Jessica. Great question. I think, unfortunately, fires we don't yet know if this is a fire year. It's hard to predict, and I don't think we've yet had a year. We've had years that are better than others, but I don't think we've yet had a year where there wasn't some sort of fire impacting the valley in some way. Certainly, Arvin Lamont is no stranger to that, given where it sits in the valley. And so we can and will always take a look at that fire data. We can pinpoint when it happened. It's pretty clear because we know when fires start and stop that we can identify in the data. And we're using it as a baseline in a sense that we'll continue to just share with you all and identify what those caveats or what the differences might be with fire years. But like I said, it's going to be hard. We won't know if 2024 is a fire year or not. I imagine there will always be some day throughout any year that's impacted by something other than like the normal. Unfortunately, I think sometimes fires are the new normal, and it is what people breathe. So it's also just a good thing to make sure we're always reporting on and talking about what the air quality is there. But to your point, we'll always make sure we communicate it so there's no confusion as to like what type of information is in that year.
Yeah, so many great questions. Thank you. And so we have one more question that we'll take before we transition. And yeah, Sandra, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll be really quick too. I just kind of wanted to throw out like a suggestion after what both the senior and Bianca shared about like moving forward with the SERP measures. I think it would be really helpful if on the tracker it would show what percentage we are to completing a measure and like fully implementing it. That way, like we can look at all of the measures and be like, oh, okay, that one's 50% done, and that'll keep it like a little bit more tidy, and we'll know like where each measure is.
This is Jessica. I believe we have that. I'll share my screen really quickly, but let me know, to your point, if that's something we need to amend, or if it's not there for everyone. This is the tracker for Arvin, Lamont, and we do have a % of target. So you can see like how far we've come in trying to achieve the measure, but to your point, maybe we can make that a little more obvious, and maybe we kind of create a quick update at maybe the beginning or end of every meeting if there's a big percentage change that might help folks understand where we're at with each measure.
Yeah, and I do see one more hand up, so Jesus, please go ahead.
On the same subject, second what Sandra just said, it'd be great if we can have milestones set for each of the measures. That way we know if we're on track. Maybe have an understood deadline of when we want all these measures to be completed by, giving us enough time in case we don't meet one of these measures on time. We can adjust. And even with the milestones, if we're not there, we'd be able to adjust.
I love that. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, thank you. Great suggestions. And I think we will transition to our next agenda item.
Hey, Liz, so we do have our colleagues from CARB, and they're here to present a little bit on QV. Do we have to like 5 minutes or so for them, or do we have to skip?
I'm wondering, sorry, Anju and Carb, I know you're here. Just given time, and maybe I'll go to the co-leads. I'm wondering if our time might be better spent with the community's ask about compliance, and I want to give time for questions and walkthrough. Is that okay with the co-leads? Because we also want to get to the Kern Oil updates. Bianca or Cesar, I don't know if you have that.
I don't have a problem with that.
I'm sorry, Carb, you have been patient and you came to our meeting. I apologize. I think it took a little longer, and sorry to pivot, but I do think getting to the how to file a complaint might be the more topical update, if that's all right with folks.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. No worries on my side. I can always come back. Like, we're excited to share a QVO tool with the community. Again, like we can provide our update whenever you need us. So yeah, that works perfectly fine for me. And thank you, Chad, for bringing that up.
Oh, thank you, Anju.
Sorry, I mistaken my answer. So is CAR gonna present, or the reporting system is gonna happen next?
You were hoping the reporting system, unless you wanted something different.
Just maybe a brief detail on CARB. I do want to give them a space, because in the past we usually leave them towards the end, and they have to rush them towards the finish line. So I don't know if it's okay. I do want to, if it's okay. I don't know if Cesar wants to have any comments or anything like that.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Cesar and Bianca and the community, CARB will be presenting, or they were scheduled to present on their air monitoring tool and tracking tool. I'm not sure, I didn't see any data included in the presentation from CARB. It's just on their new tool and tracking for community air monitoring. So wondering, community, if you all would like to see us move to the next agenda item, which is about filing a complaint. And as you all know, this is of urgency to you all, so that you can follow the recommended steps for how to file a complaint. So Bianca, does that help clarify what the goal of the presentation is?
Yes, I don't know if the community would want to do a voting, so they could work on their voting skill, just to see if they want to see monitoring on CARB, or do the exercise for reporting incidents.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just ask, is there any opposition to moving to talking about the air district's complaint process? So this will be really like helping you all learn step-by-step instructions on how to file a complaint when you notice a potential air pollution violation in your community. And so we hope that after this presentation, you'll walk away with knowing exactly what steps you need to take to be able to file that complaint and ensure that the air district then can follow up with you and whoever has filed that complaint. So this presentation is something that the community has been wanting to hear for a long time. So wanting to know if there is opposition to moving to this agenda item. Gustavo, Adrian?
Yeah, I think if the R presentation is directly related to what the district presented on the monitoring, will be good to hear that. But if it's a little bit different, it may be good to wait and digest what the district shared with us this time, and maybe having CAR presenting on their tool next time. So I'm kind of inclined to support the idea of going through the, how to file a complaint.
Thank you, Gustavo. And I saw Cesar's hand was up a moment ago. I lost you, Cesar.
Yes,
There you
sorry,
go.
the same point that Gustavo just made.
Yeah, so this is about their new platform that's up live. So it's a slightly deviation to the data and comprehensive community presentation that we just heard. So with that, I will take your recommendation and invite CARB, as Jessica from the Air District just shared, to come back to a future meeting and provide maybe even some more time so that we can have more dialogue about this new tool that CARB has available. And who knows, maybe there could be a demo at the in-person meeting at some point so you all can see the tool. I know I've been to one of the demos, and it's helpful to kind of see it live firsthand. So with that said, we're at this point, we're going to transition to Marisela from the Air District, who will be providing a comprehensive update on how to file a complaint and what the recommended steps are. It is our privilege this evening to have Marisela present in Spanish. And so those of you who are in the English channel, you want to make sure that you can verify that you are in the English channel. So as we've shared at the top of the meeting, there is that globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please do take a moment to select or to ensure that you have selected the correct channel, as Marisela will be presenting in Spanish. So with that said, Marisela, I'd love for you to get started, and then we'll take questions towards the latter part of your presentation, given that we want to make sure that folks walk away from today's meeting with a clear set of instructions. Go ahead, Marisela.
Hola, muy buenas tardes, Comité Directivo.
Hi, good afternoon, CSC of the Arvin Lamont community. I'm Marisela from the Department of Outreach and Communications here at the Air District. It is a pleasure to be here with you tonight to have this presentation for you. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. Just give me a second. Can you see? Okay, perfect. And this presentation is going to be bilingual, so you will see both languages in your screen. As it has been mentioned previously, I'm going to talk a little bit on how you can report a complaint for the Air District. We know that every year the Air District receives thousands of complaints related to the air quality, and these are a major priority for the district. To identify them as soon as possible. So I'm going to go to the next slide. What are a couple of things that you want to report? You can check here at the screen that you can present a report about, like, if you see an odor or an unpleasant odor. Also, you can submit claims related to illegal burning. Even if you don't know if it is illegal or not, you can call if you see that someone is burning something, whether it's garbage or burned barrels, or if you see smoke, you can call and report it so our inspectors can go and check if it is illegal or not and do an investigation. Also, during winter times, talking about from November up until February, if you see a sign that says no burning unless registered or no burning for all, if you see a chimney that is that has smoke, or if they are using an outdoors fireplace, if they are using any type of device to burn wood outside, you can also report it so we can do an investigation. And the last point here is if there is if you see dust or track out generated from construction sites. Those are possible options. Why would you report? Let's go to the next one. And how do I file a complaint? There are three different ways. One is to submit an online complaint. I'm going to check these three first, and then we'll go to the webpage so you can see how is the process live. So the first option is to submit it online. The second one is if you have the mobile app of the Air District that it's called Valley Air, you can also submit your claim by using the mobile app, or you can call to the phone number that you're seeing at the screen right now. This is the phone number for your county, that is the current county. The phone number is 1-800-926-5550. It is very important for you to know that this phone number you can call at any time during the daytime. It's like a 24/7 number, 365 days a year. In this case, because it's February, it's 29 days, 366 days for this year. This phone number, if it is like after office hours, there's going to be a machine, but if it's throughout the day when people are working there, you can call and you can talk to someone live. So these are the three different ways to submit a claim, a complaint. As I've mentioned, you can call us and you can submit your complaint every day of the year, 24/7. The information that you're going to submit is confidential, but at that moment when you submit a claim, you can leave your information if you want to, because people who will call will like to know your name and phone number just so they can hold you back to let you know what is happening with your complaint. That's why we ask you for your name and your phone number, because we want to report back to you to give information. It's very important for us. It's not for us to give information to the person that you are complaining about. Just to call you back and to give information on what was inspected. Now we're going to go online. If you go to the Air District webpage, this is our website. If you access to the website, you will, if you go to the left, you will see air pollution complaints. You can click there, and then it will give you the option that says file a complaint. You can click on that one. Another way to do it that is easier, I think, you have to go down, and here on the right hand, you see like a phone image and with an exclamation, and you can also click there. Here you can see that now it's in Spanish, but you can also do it in English. I will leave it in Spanish just for now. So all the information you will be able to see it in Spanish, and here where it says submit a complaint about air pollution, you will click on that option to access all this information, about yourself. And it's going to ask for your name. Here it says optional. Again, as I previously have mentioned, this is just for us to be able to call you back, but it's optional. Name, last name, phone number. A phone number, it is required to be part of this app, and then an email address. Those two options are a requirement, and then here your and the zip code. This is optional. You don't have to enter that information. What's the most important part is what we're talking about, you know, the complaint details, type of complaint. It could be dust, if it is like oil, the trucks, or buses when they leave the engine on when they shouldn't be doing it. Another thing that is not part of the list, here it says odor. I don't know why here it says that. Any burning from the agricultural smoke, burning from other materials that are not part of the list, the smoke that comes from companies from the industry, chimney smoke, or vehicle. So you can select one of the options. We're going to now imagine that it's about dust, and then I'm going to include a description. Here you can put the details, like with a lot of information, you will be able to write down like dust. You can do it in Spanish or English. Here you can put that, you know, I've been seeing dust in my community, in, you know, near the highway, you know, Weed Patch, I know it's the name of one of the streets. And then you can put the date, the day that you saw that. You can access to the calendar, and you can put the date. We're going to use as an example today's date, and when did you see that? I'm going to do here, put 6:45 p.m. And here it is very important to select this option if it is happening like right now. And then you can send the information directly to the inspector. If you know who owns the property or the commercial name, you can also enter it here if it is a company or if it is a property, and then you can include the address. This is going to be needed, like the streets near, like the crossing streets, the two crossing streets, the city and the county. And here we're going to choose corn. Here in this next option, you can attach like a video or a picture. You can select it, and you can select it online. But you will have to have it first in your computer, so then you can select it and attach it. After you have filled out all of this information, you're going to be able to check these two options. If you want to use the user agreement, and like, I would like to receive a report after this complaint investigation has been carried out. This is optional. If you don't want to receive a phone call to know what happened, then you don't have to check this option here. And this is to be able to send the complaint right now, because I didn't enter all my information. It's not allowing me to, but where it's red, it's what the information that is missing for me to be able to submit a complaint. Let me see. I think that's everything for this part on how to submit a complaint. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. I don't know if you have any questions. César? Thank you for the information. With my experience submitting reports, I know that it's important to give the phone number, because sometimes inspectors, even though you don't want to provide your name or your address, I never put my address where I live, but if you don't want to give your information, you can also give your phone number. So when the inspector calls you, you can give more details about your complaint. That happens a lot, and inspectors within this region, I've heard that they're better than in other regions. They work faster, And I've called in even during the weekends, like around 5 a.m. And almost always they call me back. So I think it is important to give the phone number, and also if you have an email address, they will send you all the information there, and also your complaint number. So once you end up entering all the information, you will get a complaint number, and with that number, it's everything that you need to get the updates on your complaint, unless you get a call from the inspector. But thank you for that information. Thank you, Cesar. As Cesar mentioned, it's very important for you to put your phone number, because if the inspector goes to the area where the complaint is being reported and he or she cannot see what is happening, they will call him or her. They will call you to get more information from you so they can do a better investigation. Thank you, Cesar. Any other question? Do you have any questions? Marisela.
Time to report some issue areas after the report, after right now, to kind of maybe discuss what would be a good way to collect information about some reports now, or is that not a good thing, good use of time, Jess?
I never want to stop anyone from, if there's some things you all want to share. I don't necessarily think this is a space right now to send a lot of reports. Although, of course, if there's something happening right this second, please let us know. But if it's maybe folks can start sharing, we can follow up with you. But I think what I heard tonight from Marisela and from Cesar is the moment you see it, don't wait and say, oh, I'm talking to the Air District tonight or next week, or I'll see Cesar tomorrow. Let us know, because that means that we can get someone out there faster and we can see it with you. That tends to be the feedback we get the most is, well, your inspector called me, but they didn't see what I saw. And sometimes it turns out it's because someone else helped them file the complaint, which is okay. And I appreciate that folks do that. And if that's the way you feel most comfortable, that's great. But that does allow for a bit of delay, or even to Cesar's point, it means that we're not necessarily calling back the person who sees it with their own eyes. So it does help that you file immediately. But I'll stop there. I know Minerva has something she wants to say, and anyone else, if you have something you want to mention, we'd love to hear.
Thank you, Jessica. Minerva, please go ahead. Minerva, can you hear us? May have lost Minerva. I see Elvia has a question, and Mario. Can other folks hear me? Am I cut out? Okay, it's not me.
Elvia, tenía una pregunta. ¿O Mario?
Elvia or Mario, did you have any questions?
I want to talk about the borderline of how the map is on our where we got the monitors. I want to know when could we have that meeting to vote to make it bigger, because we never finished that project on how big our borderline is at.
I can really quickly, I can point you and call you back, Mario. We voted on the community boundary a couple of years ago, and that was finalized through community vote. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, because what I remember, we haven't voted for it, because we wait a minute. It's the point is, I know you don't get upset.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you're getting upset that's not right. Anyways, it don't matter. The point is that I want to have the people, let's see if we can vote to extend the borderline, because what I remember, we were supposed to get back to do it. I don't remember voting to leave it like that.
And I apologize. I don't mean to be upset. I was just I'm confused, and I definitely want to maybe follow up with you after. So it sounds like that needs to happen.
Yeah, because if you look at the past video, it'll show you that we agree to extend it to get it bigger. We never well, me, I don't remember voting for that borderline to stay as it is, because when I was asking to put monitor in certain places, they said no, the borderline is there and that's it. I go no, because we haven't agreed to leave the borderline like that.
I'm remembering, this is Amy, Mario, I'm remembering that conversation. And so it sounds like there might be a little bit of confusion next steps. So let's turn this into an action item on our end so that we can write this down and have the Air District follow up with you and kind of clarify next steps, because that's important, because things were voted and we do need to make sure that everyone is in the loop when a decision has been made by the steering committee. Cesar, I saw you had your hand raised. Wondering if you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I was just going to offer that I can follow up with Mario as well, so that I can go over the SERP stuff. So I can, I think Sandra can probably give him my contact info.
Wonderful, Cesar. We will add you to the action item, and the more the merry. We can ensure that there's a clear and transparent process. Bianca?
Yeah, and I also wanted to echo what Cesar mentioned. If he needs some more clarity, I think also letting him know that we as committee members did vote it on. I believe in that meeting of the expansion, he was not there, but we did vote it as community members, and we left it as is, and we voted all collectively. And I think if he wants to talk about it afterwards, we're more than welcome to do so.
Thank you, Bianca. We'll go ahead and write that as an action item. And thank you, Minerva, for commenting. I see that your audio is not working. If you do have a question and want to put it in the chat or send it through the translators, we're happy to make space for that. But at this time, I want to be respectful of everyone's commitment to being here. And I want to transition us to standing updates. We do have several updates, but in the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and prioritize inviting Current Energy to provide an update. And then depending on time, I know the Air District also has some other updates that we've talked about at the top of the hour. So Kern County or Current Energy, please do go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us again. We definitely want to give you an update tonight. Just as Gabe, that we introduced to this group last month, had mentioned, we look forward to being part of these and giving you that information and trying to help satisfy concerns and questions where we can do that. So for today, I wanted to share some background and some updates around a recent event that you might have heard of, and help ensure that the CSC, the community members here, have accurate information about that event. So I have a document that we provided to the Air District, and I think that Jessica is going to share that on the screen so that folks can see it.
I can pull it up right now. And then Melinda, if you can clarify, the document is in English only.
Yeah, the document is in English only. That's because it was prepared by a different agency. It's not a document that Kern prepared. So unfortunately, like, I didn't have that ability to do translation with it. So I apologize for that, but it's not our document. I just wanted to make it available.
I wonder, I'll pull it up right now. I wonder sometimes, for the sake of equity, if maybe just you speaking, and then we can post the document later, unless you feel like it makes more sense to have it up while you speak.
I'm very open. If we want to provide it to folks later, if there's translation we could do after the fact, that would be okay too.
Does that make sense for you, Dr. Ramos?
Yeah, thank you, Jessica, for proposing that. That makes the most sense, so that we have everyone getting the same information tonight.
Sure.
Thank you, Melinda.
So like I mentioned, when you guys get that document, that's one that was developed by another public agency. It wasn't one by Kern, but nonetheless, it's got information about what I'll be mentioning. So earlier this month, there was a release of crude oil at the intersection of Panama Lane and Buena Vista Road. Some folks might have heard about that, which is why we wanted to address it. And while the cause of the release was unknown, our team at Kern Energy responded to it because we have assets in that area. We coordinated very closely and cooperated with state and with local response agencies like the fire department, the city, other state regulators to help them make sure that that incident was handled quickly and that community health and safety were number one and were safeguarded. Excuse me. The agencies that were overseeing the response conducted air monitoring, and they found no threat to public health. And they also confirmed that the event did not have any impacts to wildlife or to waterways. So while the ultimate responsibility and ownership has still not been confirmed by the state, our team responded because we believed it was the right thing to do, and because we knew we had the trained team with the skills to respond in the right way and to help mitigate that for the community. Some of you might be familiar with that area. You might have been out there, noticed that there's still some activity taking place. I checked in with my team last night to understand kind of what's going on and what still remains. We forecast that the intersection will be back to normal within a couple weeks. There's just a little bit more work to remain there, but hope to have that back real soon. Thanks very much for letting us do the update tonight.
Just checking my monitor to see if there's any questions or comments. I'm not seeing any hands raised, but I'm seeing Cesar has a question, Melinda. Does the pipeline have something that measures the oil going through it to know how much oil actually leaked?
So our pipeline does have equipment that monitors it for releases. This was an interesting scenario, which is where I mentioned that ultimately the ownership and that responsibility has not been established. It was not a release from our line. When we're able to share the document with you, you'll be able to see additional information there about it being another line that was connected to ours.
Okay. And I'm seeing a raised hand, but I don't know who that is, the new phone number that just joined. Can you introduce yourself? 559-301-9476. That is your phone number. I don't know who you are. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and
Otra vez soy yo, Minerva. Es que entré.
This is me, Minerva. I joined with my cell phone. So that's why you see my phone number. I just have a question about, we were talking about the reports. Because in my community, for example, I've seen that people don't have enough information to know that they could have a penalty, or you can have a fine, or for example, because we're polluting by burning wood, they don't have an idea of that. So sometimes I speak with some people and they know that it's polluting, but they don't know that during this time and this place where we live, besides that we are contributing to get more pollution, we can get a fine. So my question would be, besides teaching them and besides doing outreach with the information to give these reports, what are we doing to let people know that really those little things, if we stop doing them, we can reduce the pollution, and besides that, they can give us a fine. So I feel like people, it's not aware on how many things we can, or how they can give us a fine with those little things. And also, if we stop doing it, we can reduce the pollution. So I don't know if you were able to understand me.
This is Jessica. That's a great question. And thanks, Minerva. I know this was related a little bit to right before Melinda started talking. I'll just briefly mention, we have a lot of outreach we do about those types of things. And to your point, not only how can folks know that it's bad for their health, but also know what they can do instead of, for your example, burning wood or doing all of these other things. I just sent a huge note to our outreach team. Maricela is the supervisor of that team, about setting up our outreach subcommittee meeting, because I think that's where we'll co-create materials and next steps on how to get to the residents you're talking about for these measures and for these just education, right? It's both. And so I think you're just creating a nice, along with the other items that were brought up tonight, list of things we can talk about at that outreach subcommittee meeting.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your response.
Thank you, Minerva, and thank you, Jessica, for helping turn that into an action item. So we'll be sure to note that down. Sandra, I see you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if there were any violations on behalf of Current Energy in the month of February, and if so, how many, and what was the cause?
You're asking if our district had any violations. I don't have the, in the month of February, I don't have those numbers in front of me if that was the case, but I can respond, I get anything back to the group and respond back to you, Sandra.
Yeah, and I think monthly updates on that would be great so folks know when there is violations. And I just wanted to reiterate, I did ask last month to have a presentation on what happens to the fines and the money that comes from those violations and how that's equitably distributed to the community.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, we'll carry that forward into the next meeting, and maybe that can be one of our items is a little bit more on the regulatory enforcement. I will also mention, and this is why subcommittees are so important, we have so much to talk about these other pieces like regulatory and enforcement and air monitoring and outreach, that to all of your points, we also have a lot of CERT measures to move forward on. So I'm really looking forward to trying to find a balance of coming to you all with updates on CERT measure progress, input on CERT measure progress, and then also all these great updates from all of our stakeholders and our compliance staff. So it's a lot to talk about. And so maybe that's something we can decide at our next meeting on how to best tackle it. But I do think some of these subcommittees will help relieve that pressure.
This is Amy. Thank you, Jessica, for clarifying that. And I know we're out of time, but we did have several updates scheduled from the Air District, from CARB and DPR. Wondering how the committee and maybe Jessica, you can provide some recommendations on which ones to prioritize and how to, move forward.
I think Air District updates can go into an email. I'll just answer there was one question, I answered it in the chat about the number of targeted mowers, which is 350 in your CERT. But I think the bigger questions will be answered during some subcommittee meetings about outreach. I know we do have a pesticide subcommittee coming up at the end of March. So I don't know, I'll pass to DPR if they have something that needs to be discussed right now, but we can also talk about it at the longer update. Aniela.
Hi, everyone. This is Aniela. I only had two really quick updates, and one was about the pesticide subcommittee. We'll be presenting on the 1,3D residential bystander regulation during that pesticide subcommittee meeting. So I hope to see you all there. And then I have another update. However, for the sake of time, because I have to share a bunch of links, I'll just email Jessica that update so she can share it via email. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you so much. And I see Michelle from CARB has come on camera. Wondering if you could walk us through a couple updates.
Yeah, I think that because of due to time, we also will send most of our updates via the standing update email that the district will send out. But I did want to let you know that my colleague, Eric Bissinger, he works for our enforcement division. He is going to send out a note basically just asking if anybody has any questions or places that you would like him to sort of visit. I'll let him put it in his own words. I don't know if I have the right words, but just want to let you know that's going to be in there. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely look out for that.
Yeah, hi, this is Eric Bissinger with Carb Enforcement. Just real quick, we're looking for places where there's lots of heavy duty diesel traffic that where we could, work with the CHP to set up some investigation sites. We scouted the area and we couldn't find anything on our own. So we're kind of need your help to help us find some locations. So yeah, we'll include that in the action item email and maybe at an agenda item setting, but thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eric and Michelle. And so in that update that the Air District sends out, wondering, Michelle and Eric, if you all can just be explicit about how to contact you and report with you so that the community can reach out to you as soon as possible. And Cesar, I see you added some comments in the chat that you would like to turn into action items. Wondering if you can quickly kind of contextualize those comments.
Yeah, sorry. I got a quick update on the opacity from the stacks from Air District Inspector. And it's at 1/4 Ringleman, which is for black smoke, and 5% opacity for white smoke, which is described as no visible emission. So if there are any visible emissions coming from the stack for more than 5 minutes in any 2-hour period, even if it comes out 5 seconds at a time, if it comes out for more than 5 minutes in a 2-hour period, then that's a violation of the permit.
Thank you so much, Cesar, for that clarification. Appreciate it. So that wraps up our general standing updates. We do have other agency updates that you'll get via email from the Air District. Please do make sure that you are connected to how the Air District sends out emails and that you're getting all of that communication so that you can stay on top of all the decisions and the next steps that get provided in this email. In addition to the updates, we'll be sure to update the action item tracker so that you can see all the action items that were reported tonight. So that wraps up our meeting for tonight. Our next agenda setting meeting is set for March 7th from 4 to 5, and it'll be via Zoom. Our next pesticide subcommittee meeting will be March 26th from 4 to 5:30. So that meeting is an extra half hour long. And then our next community steering committee meeting is scheduled for March 27th from 5 to 7. Please do stay tuned for all of those action items and next steps. At this time, just want to make sure that we do provide a space for public comment. If there's anyone that has any general comments or things that we haven't discussed tonight, or any, I think my camera just went out for a second, apologies. Or if anyone from the public has any comments, this would be the time to comment. Jesus Alonso.
Hi, just real quick, wanted to bring put in everybody's radar. A couple folks I've spoken with are interested in being part of the CSC. I know on one time prior we've opened it up to people, and I'm hoping to see which, when we'll be able to do that again.
Great question. We'll note that as an action item to look into that. It has been a while, right? Since we've done what we called a refresh where we kind of assess people's commitment. Some folks maybe haven't been showing up because they haven't been able to be here, and maybe we can open up some spots. So great idea, and we'll look into that. Thanks, Jesus.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Jesus. And thanks everyone for hanging in there and engaging in such a critical dialogue. It was great to see all the feedback from the community, to have presentations in Spanish, and to really be able to move the conversation forward and write down some action items to help ensure accountability and transparency. We look forward to seeing you at the next agenda setting meeting and then at the pesticide subcommittee for those of you who plan to attend. So that concludes tonight's meeting. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Buenas noches.
Have a good night.